What's up, y'all? In this episode, we'll be talking with an artist who started his first gallery from his backyard to now his pieces hang in museums all over the world. In this episode, we'll be talking with Lark Allen on how he turned his trash into treasure. Welcome to this episode of Composition.
Thank you so much, Bree.
Yeah.
And I just want to start by saying that I am honored and I've become a fan of your work as well.
Oh, thank you. Cool.
Thank you.
I've been stamped.
Yes. So I'm Lark Allen III. I'm from Elberton, Georgia. I grew up in Athens, Georgia, and Atlanta, most of my life. So it's a little bit about where I'm from. I like making stuff from different things.
Right.
Mixed media. So that's my thing. And I'm heavily involved in sculpture right now, even though I do a lot of two-dimensional work as well.
Okay. What was the first piece you first created that really started all this magic that is surrounding us right now?
Oh, good question. I mean, I don't think there was one first piece. There's always like a culmination of things that lead to a point.
Right.
And I just found myself experimenting a lot with different materials and different processes. And it took me a long, long time to put it all together because I used to do separate projects. So it took a while.
Okay. So I was listening to an interview you actually did with the Saginaw Museum, and you were talking about your process and everything, and how that's actually your favorite part. So can you tell us a little bit about how do you choose? Do you choose a specific theme? I'm going to go this route, or is it just kind of I've had a couple of these ideas. Let's see what I can, bring forth.
Sometimes I already have a theme in my head.
Okay.
But I need the right materials to carry that theme.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just find certain materials and I automatically come up with a theme. So it's kind of a vice versa thing. But for the most part, I just like to do a lot of collecting and putting things together.
Nice. How long? Okay, so my biggest question is, how long does it take you to put a piece together, or even the pieces behind us, because I remember when I first saw your exhibit, and I was like, how long? That was my first thought. How long did it take you? Because you use so many various materials, and then to let them sit and let them dry into various masks or different types of faces. How long does that process take, or does it vary depending on what you're making?
Minimum a week, week and a half. That's if I'm working really fast.
Yeah.
When I constructed these masks, that's all I was doing, from sun up to sundown. Okay. And it had got to the point where I was pushing out one a week. Believe it or not. And
oh my God.
I couldn't believe it.
Because I'm thinking he's gonna say 6 months a piece for each phase. A week.
And I never produced that much work so fast. But it's possible.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if I have a foundation of what I'm making, it doesn't take long after that.
Are there any particular materials that you learned just absolutely don't go together as far as them holding? Because even a lot of the wiring material and stuff that you do, I'm still trying to figure out how you do that. But even the wiring material, some of the cement things, are there certain materials that you've learned over time that just don't go well together in terms of just them holding for the pieces you're trying to create, or have you just figured out anything can go together?
Well, pretty much anything can go together.
Okay.
It kind of depends on how you're attaching objects. Some things I attach, some things may be glued, some things may be soldered or whatever,
Right, yeah.
You just, as an artist, you just have to figure out what works and what doesn't. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I definitely learned, whether I'm doing the series or taking photos, it's just people how do you do, I had an idea and it worked, And for yours to work repetitively is very fascinating to me. Even though they're all completely they're all their own like space and time even, but they still have like this consistency of like the work has been put in diligently with all of them, not like, okay, like some pieces you can kind of tell, or I feel like with any some artists, like you got a little lazy at the end and you were just like, oh, I'm just trying to pump this last one out, like no big deal.
I mean, when I make things, they're not meant to be perfect.
Right.
These masks are not constructed perfectly. They're not well refined. But I wanted them to kind of speak to life.
Right.
If you understand what I mean. You know, it's not meant to be perfect.
Right.
They're repurposed materials.
Right.
So you can only, they're only going to be so new to begin with. So,
yeah.
But I kind of agree with you. You want people to know that you did invest some type of time in what you're making. And I kind of hope that came across.
Yeah, it definitely did. I was like, who is this guy? And when I found out, like, we literally passed each other, I think one day, like, I came here to see it just on, like, a quiet day. And they were like, oh, you just missed me, walk out the door. And I was like, no! I was like, is he? Because even when I looked at your piece, I was like, oh, no, he's, like, from New York or something. Like, he's not from here. Like, he's probably somebody, like, that flew in and, like, did this exclusive. They're like, no, he lives right around here. I was like, really? I was like, okay, so I can catch him again. What was the transition like, and like what made you come from Georgia to Saginaw? Like, what was that decision or like transition like for you?
Well, my wife is from here.
Okay.
And you know, we were dating when I was living in Atlanta.
Okay.
And so it wasn't a hard move for me, especially once I had gotten accepted into Cranbrook graduate school. So I was like, well, maybe this can work.
Yeah.
You know?
I like the 2 and 2.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, well, shout out to the wife.
Shout out.
Thank you.
Thank you, babe.
Don't let him leave. So you have some technical background too in like college and different things like that. This wasn't something like you were kind of like dabbling with as a younger individual. You were already kind of like learning these skills like at a more advanced age.
Well, yes and no. And I say that because I went to college really late, like in my 30s, like mid-30s. I'm not going to say how old I am.
We're not going to say that. We're not going to ask you that.
But, you know, I was a single parent. I was doing a lot of things. I was working these odd jobs, you know, when I moved to Atlanta, like when I was like 19. Okay. So I just got caught up in life. And I was working these odd jobs, temp agencies. So I kind of picked up a lot of skills by just doing these odd jobs. Okay. Never did I know that I was going to apply to art making. Yeah. You know, because I always would draw. And I've always kind of considered myself self-taught, you know. So, but it really wasn't a serious thing to me. Okay. You know? It's just like, oh, I just do, it's just a hobby. Yeah, but after my daughter, you know, graduated out of high school, I was like, man, this is my time to like go back to school and see what I can learn in college. But for the most part, I was pretty decent. Well, considered a pretty good artist. Yeah, right. I mean, you have a whole exhibit.
Yeah. So is this isn't your first exhibit, correct? You've had quite a few.
I'm going to say quite a few. This is my first exhibit since I graduated from grad school, which was like 2012.
Oh, wow.
So from 2012 to like when did the COVID start?
Look, I'm like, what? All my brains are blurred.
It's blurred. Right?
2019-ish.
2019. I didn't do any shows, didn't make any work. I was working a job, but when you get caught up in life, it's kind of easy to like sit stuff aside. Yeah. So I wasn't making any work, and before you know it, it was like 6-7 years. Wow. And I wasn't feeling good. You know, I was depressed because I wasn't making any work. And so it was just like a tough time. But yeah.
So would you say this is kind of like your artistry coming out all those years and just things sitting on the shelf And that's probably why you were able to pump out things like every week. Like, what?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, and I created COVID because I had to be at home.
On your website, you actually talk about people wearing masks that you created, or like saying that people can wear the mask. Is that something that like you hope like these pieces translate also into the fashion space, or is it more like a spiritual or cultural thing?
It's more of a spiritual, cultural thing. I mean, in terms of wearing a mask, I mean, they're constructed in a way where they could be wearable. But, you know, I'm really not, I don't want to really go that route.
Yeah.
Just for personal reasons, you know, because, I mean, we
performed enough.
and we performed enough.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I get it. I just always like, I guess when I say fashion or something, like I guess I just think more of like cultural festivals or something, or if there's like some sort of like, I know you said not performing, but if there's some sacred dances, you know, you see from like other cultures too, like sacred dances or sacred rituals that they do when they wear certain things. Like I saw it on your site and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like if, you know, if that was something, maybe a route that you were going. So that's why I asked that as well.
Oh no, not necessarily. I mean, because it's so difficult, you know, being African but born in America.
Yeah.
You know, you've lost so much, but you've held on to a lot at the same time. And I'm hoping these masks say that, but in terms of like ceremonial type of stuff, you know, there's absolutely, in my opinion, no way that I could, you know, try to do something like that unless it was totally from my point of view in terms of growing up in America.
Right. Yeah. So speaking on that too, you mentioned. So I read a lot. I was having too much fun reading all the things, had all the questions. So even through that process, when you're thinking about, okay, you know, an African American, there's this unsavory history that goes behind that as well. How do you choose, like, how do you derive or like choose pieces like where they go and like what they represent? Because I'm sure there's like a lot of meaning too behind like why you choose some of the pieces that you put onto the pieces. So do you? I guess my real question is, do you feel that these truly represent like our roots, or is it supposed to be a mix between like your half and our half and half, so to speak? We're both African American, so there's this American touch, but then there's like this African touch as well. Like, how do you decide like, oh, this piece is gonna look like this, or I hope it looks, is the goal that it looks super Africa, or is the goal that it's just more like international across the board?
No, the foundation will always be African because I mean, it's in us, you know, it's in me. So I'm always rooted in that. The work is meant to be diachronic. You know, I wanted to express changes over time. You know, as it growing up in America, which is the only experience I know.
Right.
But in terms of construction, there was an intent for me to stylistically make these masks look, you know, like ancient African masks,
right?
Stylistically, you know. So starting from the foundation, that's the way I wanted that design to be. So when you look at the differences in these masks, many of them, you know, were influenced, you know, from different countries, you know, like Congolese or Ghana or Yoruba. So, and they were all the masks that really I were attracted to.
Right. Yeah.
So when I'm attracted to something, I take that very seriously.
Right.
It's like there's a real connection.
Yeah.
That people are attracted to certain things. And so from a heritage standpoint, so I would just, the masks that I see stylistically that I was really into, you know, I tried to, you know, I was kind of influenced by those masks. And so stylistically wise, that's where that comes from.
Mm.
Everything else is just layers from history,
Mm-hmm.
modern day,
Mm.
and so forth,
Right.
based on things that people throw away.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a big part of our history too,
Right,
in terms of repurposing and quilt making,
Mm-hmm.
all these things that we would do for sustainability,
Right, yeah, yeah.
And,
To make do,
and
yeah.
quite honestly, if I didn't make it work this way,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be an artist because I couldn't afford to be an artist.
Have you had any setbacks, like during the process of this particular collection? Like, did you come across like any setbacks or anything that made you either question, like, oh, first of all, did I make enough? Two, did I express, the message that I'm trying to portray, or were you just kind of like every week, just boom, another one, boom?
I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, to be honest. And I'm still making more as we speak.
Okay. I was the other question. I was like, do we have more?
And so I don't know if I ever get it out of my system because
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved masks.
Right.
And I've always made them to some degree, especially when I started back to school.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never made them like this.
Okay.
So I think I'm just grasping the surface, to be honest. And,
Yeah.
and I have so many materials that are really good for what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get rid of the stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have that closet or that shelf that's like, ooh, but it's like, but it may, in my mind, I know it's gonna do something.
So yeah, it's not quite out of my system.
Yeah.
And when you're making art, sometimes you just have to go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of going with the flow,
Mm-hmm.
because one thing always leads to another.
Right.
You just have to, don't doubt yourself and keep doing what you're doing.
That part. Y'all hear that? He said, don't doubt yourself. Hey, don't doubt yourself at all. So what is that process like for you? Like picking the materials, and even like, because I know you said like you have particular days or a day that like you go out and like scavenge for things. Are you getting up like early in the morning, just like going to these random sites, or are you just kind of walking around finding stuff like, oh, cool, and like, collecting it in your car? What does that day look like?
So I took the knobs off the stove. My stove went out. So I'm parting out what I can. Got a lot of wires. I've already got a lot of them out. I got to get all these out. To keep any parts I can. Definitely will give you an update on things and show you what this ends up on, because I have no idea. Every day is a scavenger.
You're like, oh, no, it's all week long.
If I see something that I like, I'm stopping and
okay.
Getting it. But I have no particular time or anything. I'm not a morning person. I've never been. I try.
Yeah.
It's not in me.
Yeah.
But, I think that speaks to me the way I work, because I work, all type of hours.
Mm-hmm.
I may work all night, or I may, work until 12 or 1, and, then get up at 2 and work until,
Yeah. So it's kind of wherever you go with the flow.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, no particular way,
Mm-hmm.
I just, Thursdays, I just drive around a little bit and see what I can find.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What advice would you give to upcoming artists who may be either in like the stagnant phase that you were in, towards like, I'm at this job, I'm not really, and not to say 9-to-5s are bad, because if you work, you gotta do what you gotta do, but what would you say to artists who want to go more maybe your route, or who just create like more sculptures or paintings? What would you say to them in terms of, getting like coming out of that rut and finally like expressing themselves and creating? Because I'm sure like quite a few of us felt pretty stuck, like between COVID and even just life, life happens.
Right. What I would suggest, what worked for me, you have to have a space. If you don't have a space, carve out you some type of little space, working space, where you're already set up to work. because for me, I kind of found out that if I'm not prepared to work, where I just can go right to a station
Yeah.
and get to work, it's more difficult for you to, you know,
Yeah, get
get
started.
involved in the process.
Right.
And also set aside, if you're working a job or whatever, just set aside a time slot and stick to it, you know, whether it's something on the weekend or every day, but just set aside that time slot, stick to it, and make sure it's a time where you know you're not going to be disturbed by anybody.
Yeah, so really like consistency and having that space. You would say your top two. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot, and I really think it's important. Like, of course, there are days where you're like, oh, I don't feel like it, but it's like it might make you feel better though. You never know, you know. So it might make you feel better. On your site, you talk about there's you say a motivation for creating African-inspired artifacts is fueled from an African-American upbringing in rural and urban America. Using found materials from nature as well as discarded objects from my immediate environment, mixed media has become an outlet for me to actively investigate my own existence with the African dysphoria. Would you say throughout this process, and even before this even was cultivated, that there was a moment or incident where you started to question like who you were and you wanted to start to investigate and go on that path of like discovery for yourself?
No, no, for me, this has been like for a long, long time, even when I wasn't actively like involved in the art world. For a long, long time, I've always wondered, you know, why we as African Americans have so many issues going on. I'm talking about we're at the top of the list with everything.
Yes.
From diabetes to heart disease, you know, to you name it.
Yeah,
you
everything.
know? And so that's always consumerism. So that's kind of always been something like stuck in the back of my mind. You know, what is going on with us and why is this happening to us?
Right.
And it's not happening to anyone else. You know, not even our African brothers and sisters. They're, you know, it's happening to nobody but us.
Right.
So that's always been a question and concern in my mind. And I think it has a great deal to do with the work you see right now. So.
Right, yeah. When I look at this, especially this particular collection, because I haven't witnessed others quite yet, but I'll be there. I feel like these are, when I look at the different masks, and for me personally, I can somewhat relate to it. There are moments throughout the collection where, like how you were saying, you know, you felt stagnant for quite a few years and didn't even realize how much time went by. And I definitely feel that, especially with like your cement pieces, it's very tight, it's very straight to the point, but there's little cracks of like something flew out of here, but I'm not quite sure. And even what you do like with the wiring and everything like that. So would you say, have you found some of those answers or things that you're looking for since you've, whether it's these pieces or other pieces, when you say like, you know, investigating yourself and the world and what's going on?
What I have found, which wasn't lost, is that we have a remarkable ability to sustain ourselves and adjust and continue to keep living, you know, regardless of what we have, what we've been through. And so I think the work speaks to that too.
What has been the most rewarding thing throughout this entire process, whether it's discovering like, man, I miss art, let me make something, or this coming out or anything else you've created, like what's been the most rewarding thing for you?
Meeting people like you, the feedback from the community has been amazing. I was very skeptical about having my work in a museum. Really.
Wow.
I mean, this series is actually started in my backyard.
Okay.
And I guess somebody got word of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like, this guy has me. I really want to know what her phone goes. There's this guy. He's got stuff in the backyard. I don't know if it's people or things he's making.
So I made the stuff during the COVID, and I promoted the show in the backyard,
Oh,
went around the
wow.
neighborhood because I really have a strong interest in people in the community seeing quality art.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because there's so much talent, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the contributions, you know, of African Americans.
Yeah.
And there's not a strong art present within our communities.
No.
It really like bothers me.
Yeah.
And so I kind of said to myself, I'm not going to have this work in institutions.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are.
In Saginaw Art Museum.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I made that choice because I know their direction and I know their vision. And so everything really worked out well, and they also gave me a base for people in the community to really come in and see the work. So I really appreciate them for that.
So what made you change your mind then to come into here now? Because now I'm curious, like, why did you want to be in an institution? Like, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm like, but we need this so bad.
Well, I met the staff, and, you know, I really like the staff. So
yeah.
like, okay.
People will do it.
So let me change my mind. Yes. And give this a try.
Okay. Now, in your backyard, did you have all these done, or did you have like a snippet of this in the backyard?
No.
Oh, so all
maybe like most of them, maybe about 75%.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Your backyard. Yeah. That is amazing. Oh my God. And that's so like community. Like that's another thing I love about your work as well. Like you feel a sense of like he got this somewhere where I literally walk around and like he saw something bigger than maybe what I could have seen or someone else. So I appreciate that very much. I like that a lot. Where do you go from here? What now? What do you know? Will you be creating more masks? Will you be painting? What's something next we can see from you?
Well, I'm gonna create masks so I get it out of my system.
Yeah.
I really am getting the urge to start painting again. So I probably would push out those. I probably will incorporate the paintings with the masks, maybe. I'm thinking about that.
Okay, that'd be cool.
But stay tuned to that.
Okay, no pressure.
But also, and this may be a year. Right now I'm looking like a year removed. But I'm going to start a YouTube channel in the future. And it's going to be something like, how to do stuff. It's going to be called Making Art with Lark. So
what?
I'm kind of excited about that.
Yes. So, do it. So, I will watch every episode.
So yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, I'm collecting the footage for that right
now. Nice. I love it. Okay.
So yeah, we can go out and make some art.
Yes.
And, collect some stuff and make some art. So
super cool.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me. If we could sit here another hour, we would, but I gotta be good. But I really appreciate you sitting down talking with me. I'm so excited we were able to still get you in here while your pieces are still in here.
Yes.
And I really look forward to seeing what you create next. And like you said, the community does need this. We need this. And really in any community around, whether it's around here or in other places, because, you know, I would have never thought I would be able to see someone Black, make such amazing pieces, and I always feel like you have to go somewhere else to get this experience. So I really appreciate you, Lark.
Thank you so much.
So
I appreciate
much.
you.
Yes.